Next topic is exception mapping. So this is the fourth scheme that you can use to create an exception. In JAX-RS application, you could actually experience many exceptions coming from, let's say, lower level layers. For example, in your application, you might in fact want to access some persistent storage using JPA, and if item is not found, then it will result in JAX JavaX persistence entity not found exception from that persistence layer. Okay. So when this exception occurs, you do not want to delegate to the system, which is going to actually generate maybe 500 error. So that's certainly not desirable. So you want to actually map this exception to not found exception, like a 404 error. So that's where you can actually use exception mapping. So here, the exception mapping. So basically, you are going to create exception mapper provider class. And that class will implement exception mapper interface, and basically that interface has a single method called the toResponse, and this is exception that you want to catch, and then you want to create the response yourself, right? So let's see an example. So suppose there is in fact the JavaX persistence entity not found exception, or JPA not found exception, whatever low-level exception. What we want to do is we want to capture that exception, and then we want to create our own response. So first of all, you have to actually annotate this class entity not found exception mapper class with provider annotation. So this is one of the system level provider class, okay? And then should implement exception mapper interface with this type. So this is a type that you want to catch, okay? So this is the low level exception you want to catch. And then you are going to implement toResponse method, which generate a response object. So here toResponse method will receive this low level exception object, and here basically we are going to actually create our own response with the status, and we might actually set some entity body, response body with some data, and you can set the type, and then you basically get the response object and return. Okay. So idea in this case, idea of the exception mapper is basically you want to capture a low level exception, and then you just generate the response object once you capture that. Okay, so that is the idea. All right, so let's do exercise 4. So exercise 4 is, in this case, let's see, exception mapping. So let's run this guy first, and then we'll see what happens. And again, it will have the same UI. We are trying to access the user ID 10, and it will result in 404 error. And we'll take a look at the code. Okay. Here you go. So if I click could not find user 10. So if you take a look at this code, let's actually see this code. So we have so let's actually take a look at the mapping class first. So if you go to your user resource here, okay, oh, the mapping class is right here. Okay, so mapping class. So what we want to do is we want to capture user not found exception. All right, so this is kind of we actually create user not found exception ourselves. This is one of the examples. Maybe maybe I should actually change like a JPA user not found exception, something like that, to kind of indicate this is a low level exception. So why don't I do that? So I'm going to say JPA, okay. Or persistence, something like that. Okay. So this is a low-level exception, and what we want to do is we want to capture that exception using a mapper. So we have created user not found mapper, which is implementing exception mapper, providing the exception that you want to catch. And here inside you are going to just provide two response method. The implementation, which is actually getting this low-level exception object, and then basically you're just, in this case, you're gonna just return 4. Okay, and that's basically the idea. All right, so for your own exercise, again the same thing with put method, and we are going to create user method not allowed exception class, and then create appropriate exception mapper class. You can name it name any way you want, right? And then again use the call command below to test it. Okay. All right, so I'll give you 5 minutes to try exercise 4.